Thanks for joining our monthly community webcast. I'm Jürgen Kress, part of the Oracle product management team. In case you missed one of our webcasts, on-demand recordings are available. For details, please see our monthly community newsletters and subscribe to the Oracle Video Hub partner channel. In today's presentation, Sid Joshi and Maciej Kruczka will give us an update on DevOps for hybrid cloud-native application management and monitoring. Hi, Sid. Welcome to the webcast.
Hi, Jürgen. Thank you for having me. And everybody who's joined the call, thank you for joining us today. My name is Sid Joshi. I'm the product manager for the Enterprise Cloud Native Java. And I've got some exciting things to show and talk to you about today. But back to you, Jürgen.
Great, thanks. And with us on the call is Kwan. He will help us with the questions and answers. Our objective of today's webcast is to introduce DevOps. In case you use technologies like Java EE, WebLogic, Leiden, Cloud Native, or Microservice, this webcast is for you. Please pay attention to the Oracle Safe Harbor statement. Please blog and tweet only about services and functionality which is available today. Quick housekeeping. Please feel free to post your questions via the conference questions and answer tool or Twitter #PassCommunity. At the end of the webcast, we will answer them. Slides will be available at our Video Hub channel and community website. Please share your feedback via the Zoom survey at the end of the webcast. For today's agenda, I will quickly give an update on the latest community announcements and then hand over to Sid for DevOps and hybrid cloud native application management, including a live demo, and we will answer your questions at the end of the webcast. Nomination for the Oracle Excellent Awards 2022 is open. Make sure you make your submission by May 2nd. There are several categories for your submission for customer nominations, and you can also submit your success as a partner. Some tips for the submission: emphasize on the challenges you solved and the approach to achieve the results and the business value. Highlight the innovation of Oracle Digital Assistant, integration, and cloud native solutions. The Oracle Partner Technical Forum, our main conference, is now available on demand. For integration, visit bit.ly/OIC PTF 2022 and the same for Digital Assistant. The conference had more than 8 tracks, and you can choose all tracks which are available on demand. Some quick updates for the integration audience. We continue to offer our 3-day hands-on bootcamps, which are made for SaaS partners and consultants who implement ERP, HCM, and CX. As part of the training, you get hands-on experience to integrate and connect SaaS. Upcoming trainings include South America starting today, April 26th, 28th, and May 3rd, and EMEA starting May 10th, 12th, and 17th. Registration is open for the community newsletter. You can register for the community newsletter at tinyurl.com/oracleic, and you can read the April edition at Past News April 2022. The newsletter informs you on a monthly basis for all our upcoming events, key announcements, upcoming product information, and much more. For details, and as a community member, you can also visit our website with all links and information presented today, including today's presentation. For Digital Assistant, we continue to offer the on-demand training, both in English and Spanish. And the latest newsletter is available, including news about Digital Assistant developer tools like Chat or Oracle application development like WebLogic. Subscribe to the community and read the latest news. And also the Developer Partner Community website informs you about the latest information. Today's presentation is recorded and will be available on Oracle Video Hub, including slides to download. Please subscribe to the channel for the latest updates. With this short introduction, I would like to hand over to you, Sid. Sid, welcome and thanks for attending.
Thank you, Jürgen. Hello, everybody. Let's talk about DevOps and hybrid cloud native application management. As I introduced myself, I'm Sid Joshi, the product manager for the Enterprise Cloud Native Java, and we've got some exciting topics to cover for you today. So let's talk about the challenges with current critical applications within an enterprise, right? What are the problems? The development of application is very slow to deliver net new innovations, net new capabilities, and scale to the high demand that might be required at a very short time and a very short space. It's really difficult to enhance and modernize the traditional solution because it might be built with a traditional approach, maybe monolithic, and the ongoing operational cost managing, maintaining them, and looking after them is also very critical and challenging for enterprises. Now, this is why cloud native have been at the forefront to help enterprises build modern, innovative solutions, build resiliency by design, extensible, adopt open source community projects and capabilities quite easily. It's got elastic capabilities and elastic pricing to just pay for what you use when you're using it by scaling out and in dynamically as you expect to do. High amount of automation and standardization could be achieved by going towards using cloud native, as well as having an environment standardization, application standardization, the way you deploy, manage, and scale. Also, that enables businesses to lower the time to market to the net new functionalities and net new capabilities that they're building, because they're not building a big monolithic application, rather the lightweight, nimble microservices or macro services, you might even say, to bring to the market, and gives them the benefit of not only vertical scaling, but also horizontally scaling the services and capability as the one which requires to be scaled dynamically, and getting the complete and full observability stack across that application, however it's running in the cloud native world. And this helps business pivot to a lot more modernizing their approach and the architecture they offer, but also becomes a lot more innovative by the solutions that they can bring to the market with the quicker time and pace. And why have organizations adopted cloud native? The benefit of cloud native really is quite apparent, because you can reduce the amount of money that the organization can spend of capital expenditure by having less amount of requirement for the licensing side of things, fitting more of your services and functionality, adopting it in a shorter span of time, increasing the developer productivity and the velocity of the net new capability that organizations can bring to the market, including having a huge amount of organizational improvements from support and manageability, because your application is portable, you can scale more easily, you can have a higher rate of availability and higher resiliency of your solution stack quite seamlessly out of the box because of the cloud native architecture that you're going with. And this is something that's been introduced by, highlighted by Dockers, as well as the cloud native survey that has been done over the last years. But there is a challenge here. Adoption of cloud native capabilities is easier said than done, because there are vast swathes of open source projects and open source community-led projects out there from which enterprises have to choose from to say which technology, which capability is right for them. Once you decided on a particular technology and the capability, then you have to make sure you have upskilled your team and your organizations to adopt that particular type of technology, may that be from the orchestration and container management to the app automation or securing your application, the way you manage your application, getting CI/CD, and so on and so forth, the various capability across your application stack ecosystem. But once you chose your technology, it might be that it's a mature technology, or it might be quite net new technology, from which you are also on the risk of what if the technology is not secured enough? What if there's a net new zero-day vulnerability? How do you protect yourself against those things? A lot of the challenges also in the cloud native world is there is a lot of churn. There's a lot of net new versions of the software and the solution that keeps coming, daily, weekly, even monthly, that you have to keep on top of, because there are net new fixes and patches. And how does an enterprise or an organization achieve that in a seamless way? How do you make sure that the X, Y, and Z components that you've chosen will work really well together in a nicely gelled manner? How do you ensure that you are always secured and have all the security fixes that your enterprises desire, and you're not exposed to any zero-day vulnerability, which is quite common these days, as we might have just heard from the Log4j side and some of the others. So it is very, very crucial that the enterprises make the right choices and have absolutely the right approaches to achieve this. Then let's talk about other challenges. Going to cloud native doesn't necessarily mean that container and the container orchestration engine is enough for your day-to-day necessity. You need to find out the right way of building your containers, delivering it securely, ability to manage, monitor, and have a very secured structure and secured architecture around your application stack. Day one operation of getting it up and running is easy, but the day two operations of always having it secure and available in the right way is the challenging aspect for an organization. So helping you to prepare for the future. Now, this is where my team and my organization inside Oracle is trying to help customers achieve this. Now, from a traditional Java EE application standpoint, WebLogic customers, who are running their mission critical Java EE application on premises can take that standard Java EE application workload on WebLogic and containerize that application and run it in a cloud native world in a nice and secure fashion. Same with the customers using coherence and in-memory data grid. And we've also created a lightweight micro-profile microservices framework like Halligan to be able to enable customers to not only work with the traditional Java EE applications, but also build net new microservices with Halligan, which I'll touch on a bit more later on, because that's what our demo is based on today. And then Verrazzano, a hybrid, complete, opinionated, cloud-native platform, enabling you to have a single pane of glass of not only managing, but also managing and securing your application stack running in a hybrid cloud-native world. But that's where we are going now. So let's talk about Verrazzano. What is it, right? It's a completely opinionated and secure container platform where we have pulled together the key open source projects in the cloud native community in the CNCF Foundation and brought it all together, making sure that it all works really well together, getting the right versions and making it tested and proven that everything works absolutely together. But it is an open source project itself. So there is nothing proprietary about Parasano. So from another side of things is a curated stack. We have curated to say what is the best of breed technology we see in the marketplace from a cloud native world, which is going to help enterprises adopt and use this in a far greater way. It also helps your Java frameworks such as Halligan, Spring Boot, and Micronaut support out of the box for customers who are trying to use Verrazzano, but also provides you entitlement for Coherence Enterprise Edition for your in-memory data grid and your sharing of your state management across the various cloud-native clusters that you might be using. If you are already a WebLogic customer, it has native support for a lot of things that customers might want to do of taking existing WebLogic workload, taking it to containerization, and have a nice and opinionated way of managing, monitoring, and securing that application stack, and giving you complete automation for a day one and day two automated management stack. But not only that, it also enables you to do hybrid cloud native polyglot frameworks. So whichever container or microservices and applications that you build, you can easily take it to a cloud native world and manage and monitor and look after it through Verrazzano. Enables you to run your workload anywhere you like, on-premises, Oracle Cloud, or any other cloud of your choice, multi-cluster and cloud neutral to enable you to run your workload in a seamless fashion. So let's talk about how and what Verrazzano is offering. It's an intelligent workload management across the enterprise environments that you might have. It gives you complete application lifecycle management and operational DevOps enablement, as well as built-in observability stack. So the way you deploy your application, it sets up all the configuration that your application would require and observability stack that you might require to monitor, manage, and secure that application stack. It enables you to deploy your applications across multiple Kubernetes cluster, so multi-cluster infrastructure management, as well as the multi-level security from role-based access controls for the end user to service-based access control that you might like to have for your application stack itself. And this is provided across a cloud consistency. So no matter where you're running your Kubernetes cluster, you get the same consistent experience of deploying and running and managing your applications through the single pane of glass of Verrazzano. Now, the way we are achieving this is by pulling together some of the very important cloud native computing foundation projects that we see helps in this space. So if you think about running and deploying your services and the way you discover and connect your services together, we are using Istio as a service mesh for that. For application monitoring and management perspective, we use Prometheus and Grafana as a de facto standard. Kiali for discovering and observing the way your services interact with each other in a nice and graphical view. We also have Keycloak for the security and identity management for your applications to be running in the cloud. Rancher for your multi-Kubernetes cluster management and observability stack as well. OpenSearch for the log management and the discovery of the logging and building your appropriate dashboards around, and Fluentd for the log aggregation and pulling it all together. Bringing all of these technologies together, proving it all working together in a seamless fashion is what we do as part of Verrazzano, which can help you take any of the traditional applications that you built into a containerization world and deploy through Verrazzano, any of the Java microservices framework that you might be using and pulling it via Verrazzano, or even using a polyglot application based services like Ruby, GraalVM, Node.js, or whichever you'd like to choose. But giving you the consistent experience of deploying to a public cloud-based Kubernetes engine, on-prem Kubernetes engine, or multi-cluster Kubernetes engine itself. Now, how are we achieving this cross-cloud consistency is by using another open source way of defining your application. We are using Open Application Model, which is a community-driven approach by Microsoft, Alibaba, and Oracle. Oracle participates in the discussion and how we will try to innovate this Open Application Model. It's very simple and straightforward. In Open Application Model, you define the components that you have of your application, the kind of traits this application have to say, how do I want to do traffic management? How do I want to test my application? The canary deployment or A/B blue-green deployment or A/B testing. How do I auto scale my solution stack? And how do I manage the identity of this application that I'm deploying? And then deploy that application across your Kubernetes cluster. So it's a very intelligent workload management. So the way you define your application and the traits through an open the OAM model, the Verrazzano itself will create the application namespace, create the appropriate tokens, the service accounts that are required, the authentication and the authorization policy that's required, deploy your application to Kubernetes cluster, build the services that are needed to connect to that application, set up any of the gateways and the virtual services that might be required, set up the Istio and the Istio certificate and the secret management itself and the appropriate network policy, and configure the Prometheus and Grafana service map, all the while harvesting the data from the applications, like the information you need from the monitoring, management, and the logging perspective, and pushing it out to the Prometheus, Grafana, and your OpenSearch dashboards itself. So another way of looking at it is that you would have an OAM model defining your application components like WebLogic, Coherence, or any of the microservices that you might have, define your login scope and define your ingress traits, push it to Verrazzano cluster, and it will do all the wiring, all the security configuration that might be needed for your application stack. Now, the same approach you could take and deploy that application across the multiple cluster and have a single pane of glass to manage, monitor your various applications running in various Kubernetes cluster or through a seamless fashion. Now, as I said, in Enterprise Cloud Native Java, we're not only talking about Verrazzano, we also talk about WebLogic and other services like Coherence and Heliton. We've created a lot of tooling to make it easier for customers to take their existing WebLogic workload to the cloud native world as well, by offering you out of the box Docker containers, which have the latest PSUs every time a new patch set is available, to all the tooling that you require, from WebLogic operator to the way you would export the metrics and the logging information, the way you do the patching of your images, the way you do a simplified tooling like WebLogic Kubernetes Toolkit UI to take your on-prem WebLogic domain running on a VM, to take it to a containerization world and deploy to Verrazzano environment or any of the Kubernetes environment. So all the tooling and capabilities are available for help you doing the transition to cloud native itself. As I said, the toolkit enables you to take an on-prem domain to generate the container information or the container for your WebLogic environment, push it to a Kubernetes Docker container registry, and even push it through Verrazzano to wherever the environment is running on-prem or any other clouds. Now, let's quickly touch on the microservices that we will be using in today's demo. Is a Heliton-based microprofile application. It is very standard, Java microprofile standard-based stack, which comes in 2 flavors: an SC flavor, which is very functional, reactive, and transparent, as well as the microprofile flavor, which is declarative. You can do all the dependency injection, and a Java EE developer will find it very easy to move to Heliton microprofile to build the net new services. And it can run really fast when you're trying to run it on top of Cloud VM, a product virtual machine. So moving towards microservices in a cloud native world. The Verrazzano itself comes in 3 flavors. One, it's an open source product, which we talked about already. The way you get support for Verrazzano, or the way you get bug fixes and things that you might ask for, is either included as part of WebLogic Suite Edition license entitlement, or you can prescribe to it from a subscription model, like a Verrazzano cloud platform subscription model, where you don't only get in support for Verrazzano for a year, but you also get support for Java frameworks like Heliton, Micronaut, and Spring Boot as well. So that helps you in that journey. Now let's quickly talk about DevOps. From what does DevOps mean, and then quickly jump into the demo for you today. Now, DevOps is the continuous integration and delivery of your functionality or of your solution from an enterprise perspective. You want to have consistent, repeatable solution. You want to have a good accountability of how and when your application has been modified and where it's coming from. Have a very secure approach and standardized approach of where you're delivering your application and functionality, and quickly be able to find out if there's an issue with your application stack, and to be able to resolve it much more easily and quickly. But also getting a frequent way of turning around many more capabilities from your application stack. Now, in a traditional way of CI/CD, you would have project management capabilities, you will have issue tracking capabilities, you want to have a source control where you put your code. You want to be able to automatically build your application and solution, deploy it somewhere, test it, then secure it and monitor it. Now, traditionally, if you have heard about a solution like project management issue tracking, you might be doing Jira or any of the similar application stack. For code management, you might use Git, Subversion, and something similar. For build deployment, you might be using Maven, and if you're a WebLogic user, WebLogic deploy tooling or anything else. For testing, you might use JUnit, Selenium, Sonar, or appropriate testing tool for your application stack. And for security and monitoring, you might be using like Java Flight Recorder or Enterprise Manager or anything else that you might have best suited for your needs. In a CI/CD world, on-prem, traditionally people might be talking about Jenkins, Hudson, GitLab, and others. But from an Oracle standpoint, from Oracle's perspective, we have Visual Builder Studio in the cloud, which we will be showing you today in our demo, which covers all the way from project management, issue tracking, code management, build automation, deployment, and testing of your application stack. And then Verrazzano is from the way you deployed your application in the cloud native world to testing your solution to securing it and monitoring it perspective. So with Verrazzano and Visual Builder Studio, you have complete end-to-end cycle of whatever you need. OCI DevOps services is currently from the code management to automated build, deploy, and testing of a cloud native and traditional workload in OCI as well. So we've got 2 services quite working in tandem and together to offer you the same. So Visual Builder Studio gives you completely from planning your application and your project to code management to automation of the build, testing, release, and deployment, all from a single pane of glass that's available to you. So let's quickly talk about the demo that I'll be doing for you now. I've got a Visual Builder Studio project where I've got a Heliton microprofile service, which is just saying hello world. It's stored in a Git repository. As soon as I make a change, it will automatically kick off the build pipeline, where it will build my microprofile. It will create a container image. It will push it to the OCI container registry. And then I will use the Verrazzano Kubernetes update command and update my application running in the Kubernetes cluster, where it will do all the, the wiring of all the application and pushing out all the information to the Grafana, Prometheus, and appropriate dashboards. And then obviously, I'll be showing you the Verrazzano consoles and the various consoles that we have available for you to look through the stack that you will be having. So let's just go through a quick demo now. So what we have here is me just being disconnected. Let's see if I'm connected. So I've got my Halidon application currently deployed and running. As you can see, I've got two pods running for the deploy Hello World. This is my Visual Builder Studio project. It's called DevOps project. Let me just kick off a quick build and change an application. Let me just show you a quick application. So this is just Hello World DevOps demo. I'll just change the code to say something different. So you know the pipeline is kicking off and everything is going in the background while I explain you some other bits and pieces. So I'm going to make a quick change over here. So I'll say Hello World DevOps demo for partner forum. Commit my change. I don't have to say anything. By default, I'm just committing to the main branch or master branch. So the changes will be taken up and my automated build will be triggered off. So if you see the build queue has just triggered off, waiting for an executor, and my build pipeline will just start issuing the build and do the job. So while this is happening now, I can show you the other parts of my project. So you can see I've just pushed it in, it will do the changes. So over here, I've installed Verrazzano and my applications that as soon as the build is going to go through, I will have a new container image over here, which you will see that the container has been replaced, and all the time a service will be available. So if I keep refreshing this, the service will be shown to us when it changes. So you have zero downtime update of your applications like it's going through. So the build is executing now. So if I just go in, you can see that it's building my Docker container, pushing it to the registry, and then it will be just deploying the application stack. While that's just going on, let me just quickly show you some of the things around Visual Builder Studio. So in the project, I have many workspaces. You can choose and have as many Git repositories. You can have multiple branches. You can do logs. You can do references. You can compare between your code in a nice and easy way. You can do all the merge requests. You can have Maven repository, your Docker container registry. In the build side of things, you can have as many jobs as you like. It's very straightforward. You can do in the configuration of your jobs, you can see all the stats. You can do parameter before your builds. You can do particular steps. You can do execute actually your build steps, and then after build steps, you can do the cleanup activity as well. And you can pile all of these things up in a nice and standardized way. You can get complete stats of your build trends. You can see the artifacts you have done. You can see the testing you have performed, the logging information, the audit information. So all this thing is readily available and easy to do, as well as you can see the stats and get the notification of successful build or even failed builds for yourself. So if I just go now, in the time I was talking to you, it's actually released an updated version of my application to the thing. So now I'll just quickly show you from a Verrazzano and the management side what we've done. So this is a quick view of Verrazzano. So I'm using currently the latest version of Verrazzano 1.2. I can have two different applications defined over here. One is an OAM model, Bob's Bookstore, which has WebLogic, Coherence, our Halidon-based microservices application, and a polyglot application, as well as MySQL database, all through in a single application. And Halidon one is a very basic Halidon application itself. And this is the one which we have just updated and released. So if I go inside it, it's going to give me some more information about my component and when it was created and running. I can see the traits and everything else. From the Grafana, so if I go back over here in the home, I've got also the links to all my key dashboards. So Grafana, Prometheus, OpenSearch, Kiali, and so on. And I'll show you each one of them individually. So if we look at Halidon the Grafana dashboard, we would have many dashboards already created. So you have Halidon and Coherence and WebLogic dashboards are available to you out of the box, where you can see the CPU utilization of your applications. Is it up and running? What kind of GCs have opened over the time? The heap sizes and the performance of your application, like how many requests you had per second, and so on and so forth. You can also look at the multiple different components you might have. As I said, I've also got another application called Bob's Books. I can even see the stats for that if I like to see it. So it's as easy as that, everything in a single place. From a Prometheus angle, I could just see that whenever I've changed my versions of my application, let's just refresh and making sure I'm not logged out. So there you go. I've got a multiple application version that I had deployed over the time, and I can see the stats and data of that, including over here. So this Prometheus data is going into the Grafana dashboard, which you can see all the nice UI around it. From the cluster explorer or cluster management perspective, if I have got multiple Kubernetes cluster, I would use a rancher to better understand how applications and the nodes are defined, how many pods are being using my services, the number of cores that are being used, the memory that is being used, what application is unhealthy or requires an update. If I look at my namespaces, I could see that I've got a Hello World namespace. So this is my Helidon application running over here. It's got a good amount of resources and is active and working perfectly. If I want to see I can see the YAML of my application, so that's quite good. And you can see also the pod statistics of your application stack. So if I go again in my pod, the new pod that's been deployed, I can see that it's got the Istio proxy configured with it. I've got the condition when it was Prezi and the recent activities. So you can get all the information about your pods from a nice simplified view as well, as the things around the storage persistence, the network policies you have, the role-based access control that you have already configured in your cluster. So you can have everything from the simplified dashboard. Kiali is also another interesting stuff. So if you look at in Kiali, if I just show you Hello Helidon first, because that's very, very basic. There's nothing advanced about it. So it will be very simplified to say end user will come into Helidon help, and then we will go to the latest service that has been deployed. But a much better view of the routing of your traffic will be in the Bob's Bookstore, because there's a lot more components to show you. So if you see here from a version graph perspective, if I go zoom in a bit, you can see the Bob's Bookstore, the front end V1 is engaged or routing my traffic across 3 different front end servers, which is the WebLogic service, admin server, and multiple managed servers in a cluster. I have an Helidon-based microservice, which is looking at the stock information. I've got the Roberts Bookstore, which is going through Helidon, engaging with coherence and going to the backend services to get the appropriate data, as well as a Bob's ordering services, which is again another application running on a WebLogic server. So you have a very complex application. You can see the version graph, but you can also see a service graph to say, okay, how my application has been serviced. And if there's a lot of traffic going through the services, you can see the in and out kind of traffic activity and the kind of workload graph of where the huge amount of workload is happening. Another way of seeing that would be looking at the Verrazzano system itself. And every time I would do some activity here and some there. Hopefully it will update some of the graphs over here. You can see there's some of them are in green where it's a more workload, and another one is in a different color because it's a different type of traffic, which is like TCP traffic that you do having between your workloads. So it's a good way of understanding your inbound, your outbound traffic, the success rates and issues in a much more graphical view as well. So that's quite good to know. From a security perspective, Keycloak, let me just make sure it's not logged me out. It did log me out, that's good. So Keycloak is where you would use to do your authentication, authorization with, the different clients you might have, the roles, the identity provider that you might want to use, your federation, everything you can configure seamlessly through this Keycloak mechanism and leverage it as part of the way you build and deploy Verrazzano. Sorry, your application through Verrazzano. Now, one thing I haven't done is the Kibana dashboard. So let me just quickly show you that. See if I look at this. I don't want to see the last 15 minutes, but I want to see 15 hours. If I just update, you can clearly see all your logs for the Verrazzano namespace of hello Halliton, and I can see there have been a lot of traffic that's gone through recently. You can go through individual logs, and you can see, all the relevant activity of where the interaction has been happening, what the pod name was, what the version was, and so on and so forth. So you get all the information quite seamlessly in one place. Now, the benefit is that if you have multiple Kubernetes cluster, you are managing all through a single place. You have multiple applications, you can configure and define it from one place. But you do not need to always deploy through OAM model. So if you have existing application which are deployed without using OAM model, you can still monitor and manage through the Prometheus and Grafana by just getting it to be managed through the Verrazzano, add a label to Verrazzano namespace, and you can absolutely monitor that too. And we are adding many more enhancements and enrichments in this area going forward. So that was a very quick whirlwind tour demo of Verrazzano for you with the automated build and delivery of Halliton microservices. So with that, I'd like to open up for thank you. And these are the resources, and I will share the slides with Jürgen. But I would like to see if there's any questions which needs any answering.
Thank you, Sid, very much. That was an impressive presentation and a wonderful demo.
Sid, this is Quan. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Quan.
Yeah. So we had a question from Kuma, who sent the question to the chat. So not everybody might have seen it. So okay. The question is pretty interesting. So this is to me, the question is basically, this is to me looks on lines of or in the lines of Red Hat OpenShift. Is there any difference or parallel, or is this specific to Java and WebLogic? Yeah. What is this? Yeah.
Go on.
Sorry, I was hoping you can answer that.
Okay, so to simply put an answer to your question is, it is similar to OpenShift, but it is very different to OpenShift as well. OpenShift is very proprietary, opinionated stack, but it's very locked in. You have to define everything in a custom way. You have a very custom Kubernetes management, the way you set up and build it up and run. It's very restrictive, I would say. And there are some places that OpenShift offers some other capabilities, which we currently, in the current phase of Verrazzano, we do not offer. But if you're looking for an open source project, which is opinionated, but it's still open source, if you're looking for no lock-ins, if you're looking for a platform which is easy to use, so you want to set up, let's just say Verrazzano, you can set it up in a matter of 15 minutes. So you just have to download the Verrazzano operator or installer, and it will set up the whole thing that I showed you right now, the Prometheus, the Grafana, in a matter of minutes compared to the way you have to install and configure the other platform. Verrazzano has a very sweet spot for if you are a WebLogic user already, a Coherence user already, a Halliton user already, to adopt and take it to the cloud native world in a very quick time. But if you are a microservices customer, which are building microservices in any languages, it's still a super good tool, an easy and open tool to be used to have a single pane of glass to manage, monitor, and secure your application stack, right? So hopefully that answers your question, Atul.
Sid, thank you very much. That was an impressive presentation and a wonderful demo. So to summarize the presentation and the webcast, if you're not yet a member in the partner communities, make sure that you register now. All presentations from the Partner Technical Forum from all the tracks are available on demand. And please submit your excellent award nominations as a partner and also for your customers. And for more information, please visit the community website, specifically the Developer Partner Community website. Sid, before we come to the Q&A, should we run the online poll?
Oh, yes, of course. Let's just launch it now. So what we'd like to know as part of this is, are you currently taking a particular approach for your cloud native application management and monitoring? So are you on the journey to cloud native? You or your customer? Are you already using the day one capabilities of Docker and Kubernetes? Or you are using an already opinionated platform like OpenShift, Tanzu, or even Verrazzano? I'll leave it for a few more seconds. I would like to give opportunity for many of you to respond, because this is an interesting experience for us to know. Let me give you 20 more seconds.
If you have questions, if you have questions in the meantime, please put them in the Zoom console in the questions and answer tool, and we will read them out in a minute, or you can raise your hand and we can unmute you.
Okay. Give it 10 more seconds for you to respond. I think I'm getting some good responses to say quite a lot of you have not started your journey yet. I can see a good 20% is doing self-assembled, self-managed monitoring components. So please be wary of the challenges you have of, testing everything together, keeping up to date with the various version and the security fixes and everything. So it's something that you should be fairly on top of. And a good 9% is between day one capabilities and using opinionated platform. So that's really good to know. I'm going to end the poll now. That's good. And we're going to share the results with you. So you can see that yourself, that a good proportion has not started journey. So hopefully this is a useful insight for you guys. Kwan, have you found any other interesting, shall we say, questions in the Q&A? I can't read through all of them. There are too many. So have you found any good ones, Kwan?
I think the only one that is the one I raised just now. The others are really around resources, to Verrazzano and Helidon. One interesting one is probably around Visual Builder Studio. Does it support other languages, for example, Node.js and Python?
Yes, of course. Node.js does support JavaScript and Python and other languages as well. It's the complete CI/CD platform from Oracle, so you can write in any languages and use it through Visual Builder Studio. Absolutely.
Yeah, the other one is, sorry. Continue.
Go on.
The other one is also again with the VBS. Does it, how do you add IAM accounts into VBS?
So the identity access management, VBCS is out of the box integrated with the Oracle Cloud Identity Management and Identity Federation. So it will use the same thing. You just need to, when you have added the users, you just need to put them in the appropriate groups to manage and look after your projects that you have. So you have a project level control from within Visual Builder Studio. So you could absolutely do that.
One more just came up. How to add IAM policy in OCI DevOps build pipeline? So I guess that's related to VBS as well. Can you add IAM policy?
That's different, Kwan. That's the OCI DevOps services, okay. Which is different to the Visual Builder Studio one, I believe. But Bharati, I will drop my email in the chat for you, and you can reach out to me directly, and I'll get you the answer for that one. I don't have on top of my head right now. That is a way, but I don't have it on top of my head.
Sid, as we have quite a few questions on the resources, should we go back to your resource slide and you explain where to find which information?
Yeah, so absolutely. So if you want to interact with Verrazzano and you want any support, we have a Slack channel dedicated to support our customers and people who are just trying out Verrazzano in the open source community. So it's the bit.ly/Verrazzano Slack. For email internally, it's a Verrazzano email. I will take that off from the slides before I share it out. Apologies. We have a Twitter, we have a YouTube channel where we put a lot of good content of Verrazzano every time we have updated anything. We have replays of previous sessions that we have run for Verrazzano, but that might be a bit out of date compared to what I just delivered to you today. And we have an external Verrazzano information as well as a GitHub information for Verrazzano and a very powerful documentation around this. So do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions on Verrazzano or your team wants to have hands-on lab that they would like to do, or they want to do, let's just say, a POC, do not hesitate to reach out to your sales team from Oracle, or even, again, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help. Okay. Is OCI have any more does OCI have any or many tools to interact with Azure? That's the G's question. OCI can connect with Azure and OCI interconnect. So you have a dedicated network that you can have between the two cloud providers, and you can, run your services, the .NET applications in Azure and OCI services in OCI, like WebLogic and Oracle database and everything, and work really nicely together in that sense. Apart from that, I'm not sure what your question is asking. If you're asking to say, can you write Microsoft applications on OCI? Yes, you can. We have Windows VMs available. We got MySQL, not MySQL, but we got Windows VM available. And I believe Oracle technology can be also run on Azure. So I'm not sure exactly what was the question was.
There's one more question from Bharati, and he asked if there is a REST API available for OCI DevOps to get code from other Oracle instances, for example, integration or ERP. Okay.
So the REST APIs are available for everything you do from the OCI console. There is a REST endpoints and REST APIs available, including CLIs available from OCI CLI. Now, Bharati, your question was very specific for Oracle Integration Cloud. There are particular APIs available for you to export and import your integrations that you have with integration. But I am not the PM for Integration Cloud, so I will hesitate to answer that. I will leave it for Jürgen to answer for Oracle Integration Cloud.
There's one more question from Bharati: how to add identity access management policy to build pipeline in OCI DevOps?
I did address that, Jürgen. I think I told her to reach out to me afterwards.
Okay. So if you have questions, you can still post them in the Q&A, or you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. So there's one more question regarding the pricing. What's the license model?
Okay, let me just share my screen again in 1 second. It's a nice question. Let me just share with you. So Verrazzano is completely open source project. So you can just download it and use it as you like. You don't have to pay for anything. But if you need support for Verrazzano, or you need support for the enterprise container platform, then it is included as an entitlement for WebLogic Suite customers. So if you're WebLogic Suite customers running on premises or anywhere else, you have entitlement for Verrazzano for using it to manage, monitor in a cloud-native world. But you can procure an annual subscription of Verrazzano for 1 year purpose on per CPU basis. So a CPU entitlement, a CPU license, which gives you the Verrazzano support, including Coherence Enterprise Edition support, and support for Java framework like Halidon, Micronaut, or Spring Boot that you might be deploying through Verrazzano in various Kubernetes clusters that you might have. I hope that answers your question.
Cool. Small correction. It's per Oracle processor, not per CPU. Per Oracle processor that you know as a metric from other Oracle software.
Thank you, Magic. I knew I was missing something there.
If you have any other questions, you can post them in the Q&A tool, or you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. There is a nice comment from Guillermo. So he really liked your presentation and he says that you're an amazing dude.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'll take the compliment.
For the resource slide, can we please post the links to the chat?
We could do that. Let me just stop sharing and I'll do.
Let me do that.
Okay, thank you. I'll just put it on in the meantime so you can and let me actually fix my stuff and get rid of the internal one because I don't want to accidentally tell you guys to come to Oracle internal emails because that would be not so good.
Machi, to have you on the phone, what's the next version of WebLogic and what are we expected to get also for Verrazzano in the next release?
Yeah, so next version for WebLogic is 14.1.2. We are planning to have it with the full Fusion middleware stack in the calendar year 2023. That will open up for customer new support lifecycle. So it will open up 5+3 years of support of error correction for entire Fusion middleware components. So we would probably highly recommend all Fusion middleware customers to jump into 14.1.2 once it's gonna appear. And with WebLogic, we also starting to share plans that we are working on the next version beyond 14.1.2. And we started to share it with customers that version 15 is on the way. It is planned for calendar year 2024. These versions are focused to adopt the latest changes with the Jakarta EE specification, as well to adopt like a newer Java runtime platform. In particular, Java 17 is a very frequently asked version that customers are looking for.
Another thing I wanted to highlight for our WebLogic customer install base, if you're on here, I would be highly recommending you to look at this WKTUI. And now all these things, which is blue in color, are links to the appropriate open source projects that we have. But this WKTUI tool is a very, very exciting tool that we have for you, which makes it so easy for the customers and the partners to discover a WebLogic domain that might be running on a physical VM, introspect and generate a YAML model, which is defining all the configuration, all the setup of your WebLogic domain, and have a zip file, which is an application archive file, including properties and the binaries of your environment. Now, the WKTUI tool will also help you prepare your domain model and your configuration to be ready for the cloud native world. It will also help you create a container images, which you can push it to the container registry and then use it with Verrazzano itself, or you can deploy it directly to any Kubernetes cluster. So the WKT Toolkit UI is really exciting tool if you are helping any customers to move to cloud native.
And also, what I would like to add here, that we starting to publish the WebLogic patched images for customers. So every quarter we are publishing the images in the container repository that contain the latest PSUs. And if you properly configure Verrazzano or properly configure operator directly on the Kubernetes, you may potentially achieve the situation that operator itself or Verrazzano itself is pulling a patched images once they appear. So generally you may achieve, regardless of the environment, on premise, in a cloud, or in Oracle Cloud, the situation where WebLogic is auto-patchable, and every quarter, once we release public patches as a PSUs, WebLogic would pull them and merge into the containers, merge with the domain configuration, merge with the application deployment information, and will automatically apply the patches to the environment. So the patching nightmare that customers experience every quarter might be gone when you adopt either Kubernetes operator directly or Verrazzano with embedded Kubernetes operator.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions, guys?
So thank you for the excellent webcast. Thank you, Sid, Kwan, and Machi for the wonderful presentation and the amazing live demo. If you have further questions, you can reach out to the team. Please don't feel free to contact us anytime.
I've just got one more question that just came in. If I can answer that, Jürgen.
Sure.
Dockerism is being deprecated on mainstream Kubernetes as the default container runtime engine. How does this affect OCI existing frameworks? So to answer that is WebLogic and Verrazzano not only supports Docker, but we also support Cryo. And you can bring any container and deploy those containers through you. So we are supporting and we are keeping up with the trends in the industry, in the marketplace. So yeah, so everything we talked about from WebLogic and Enterprise Cloud and Java perspective, we have images on Docker as well as Cryo. Okay, so that done. Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending. Once you leave the webinar, please complete the online survey, and the next webcast will be Tuesday, May 31st. Thank you for attending, and we are looking forward to welcome you at the next webcast.